Welcome to the Gals Guide to the Galaxy podcast, where a group of gals gather for you one cool thing around our topic of the month. Is it ancient history? Is it breaking news? Is it safe for work? Well, that's up to each gal. All we know is that...
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Welcome back. I am Leah, and I am joined by Bonnie and Katie and Jen, and we are talking about our one cool photography gal. So Bonnie has already talked about a doctor, Katie Bowman. But before we dive back in, I want to get to know something random about our gal pals. So my question for all of you is, what comes to mind when you think of iconic rock and roll photography? And I'll give you something to kind of jumpstart. I already terrified you with the John Lennon and Yoko Ono. It's actually the honeymoon in bed photo. But also, like, there's Elvis Presley, just about anyone. But, there's always the tippy toes one. There's Johnny Cash, if you ever seen this one, with the middle finger one.
Yep.
There you go.
Wasn't that at Folsom?
I think it was at Folsom, but it was definitely around that tour. It's on T-shirts now and flags and stuff like that. Abbey Road?
Yes,
Abbey Road.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one I was thinking already.
That's what you were thinking of, the Abbey Road?
The one that came to mind.
And that's what I'm talking about, iconic. It's like the first thing when you think rock and roll and photos. Rattle and Hum? I don't know if anybody thought of Rattle and Hum, maybe? No, not so much. Not YouTube fans. All right. No. I'm also saying anything Dylan. So like here's Dylan, and Dylan. Sorry, I'm in love. I love Dylan, and then Dylan. No, nobody on the Dylan.
When he was old, though, in concert
I did see him when he was old, but I also saw his son, and he got all the good genes.
Okay.
All the good genes on Jacob Dylan. And he can sing as well.
Oh, who'd have thunk that one?
Right. Any other ones pop to mind? I've given you
doing our thing?
Yes, exactly. I've given you some, some starter. I'm trying to buy you time to look on your phones and figure out which one it is.
Not me.
Oh, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes.
Queen album cover.
That's fair. Oh, that is a good one. Yeah. But you know what? Jen's already been ready. Jen, what is yours?
Jim Morrison's, is that his first, was that their inaugural, The Doors?
Of the Doors album?
Album.
Yes, there you go.
But then what also pops into my head is the Beatles getting off the plane in New York.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yes. Their arrival in the States. Yeah, absolutely iconic photo. Katie, what about you? I see you doom scrolling.
Doom scrolling. I don't even know that, but I like it.
You did say, you've never heard of doom scrolling?
I've never heard.
Oh, this is when your day is shit and you just go through your feed, like your Facebook or your Instagram, and you're just looking for something worse in your day. You're like, this day sucks. Let's see what's worse. And you're like looking for something to get pissed off about. That's doom scrolling.
Yeah, I don't even do that. My day's shit, and I'm like, I want to find puppies and kittens and really nice cows kicking soccer balls.
Yes, there you go. Very nice.
Yeah, that's where I go. I mean,
is it Abbey Road? I mean, you can go with Abbey Road. Yeah,
it is. I kind of grew up not allowed to watch MTV or.
I know you were sheltered as a child.
Yeah, my memories are when my dad would get the cassette tapes from the Shell station, and it was like a '70s rock compilation. So I don't have a lot to go on.
Oh, you're gonna love my gal then.
It would probably be Abbey Road.
Sweet. No, I think that's a very, very good one. Mine would be this one. Does anybody know what album that is?
That poor guitar.
Yeah, that poor guitar is about to die. No?
It's
the Clash. It's London Calling. London Calling is it's the Clash is known as the only band that matters. That was their tagline. So I'm going to talk about the cover of the only band that matters, right? So the London Calling cover was taken by Pennie Smith. So Pennie Smith is my gal. This photo was chosen by the lead singer Joe Strummer for the album cover. So a really fun fact you may or may not know about me. I'm actually a very big punk fan. I love punk music. I took a really big deep dive into British and American punk because believe it or not, they're totally different. And I wrote this really cool movie script that I never made, and it sits in a drawer, and it's really good, but it's in a drawer for nobody to see. But when I was doing my punk research, everything interconnected between the Clash. Like the Clash influenced so many people and were friends with so many people and opened the doors for so many people. So that's why everybody talks about how the Clash is the only band that matters. So when I was looking through, I just knew that for mine, I wanted to do something rock and roll. So I'm like, something rock and roll, something punk. And then I'm like, okay, I freaking love the Clash cover. Who did that? And I'm like, Pennie did that. Shit, that's who I'm covering it. Now, the story behind this photo is even more intense and unbelievable. So I love a good story. But first, I'm going to tell you about Pennie, okay? So she went to Twickenham Art School. She's very British, Twickenham. She went to art school in the 60s, and she studied graphic and fine arts. And for 3 years, she worked on a magazine called Friends, Frenz, because, that means they're art students and they're cool, right? But she went there with graphic designer Barney Bubble, who also did some other album covers. I've never heard of him, but a lot of them were typography. So made letters cool, made things in neon and bubbles and stuff. Also his name, not his real name. Surprise, surprise. But also music journalist Nick Kent. And so Nick Kent gets her kind of into the music realm. Her first photography gig right out of school, after working on this magazine a little bit, is to go on tour with Led Zeppelin.
No way.
That is her first commission job, to go on tour with them. And she went on tour with them first between 71 and 75. So like right at the point of Stairway, the height of Stairway, right before Physical Graffiti. So like my big Led Zeppelin fans, I had to look all this up. There was an interview with Pennie. She said, quote, I did odds and ends with them, which means she showed up a few times. So I think between 71 and 75, she like saw them a couple of times. I have a photo of hers, which I think I have on here, from a 75 tour. I had to go researching and shit, because my brother loves Zeppelin, and I knew he would ask, oh, that's right, the picture wouldn't, I'll have to put it in the show notes, but the picture wouldn't jump on the iPad. So that will be in the show notes. But the detective work is that there was a 75 tour, and it was at Earl's Courts in London. But she also talks about being in America and how security for Zeppelin was different in America than it was in England. So she was definitely there at some point too. So my brother, like I said, is a big Zepp fan, so he would be totally excited. But I also wanted to make sure I covered it as well as I could, because Pennie's still alive and she doesn't do interviews. So I want to make sure I get it right. You know what I mean? But she did say this about Zeppelin. I found them perfectly charming. They were just nice blokes as far as I was concerned. So it's like, yay, look at that. Isn't that sweet? So Pennie worked for the British magazine NME, which still technically exists today. It's just online. It's not a physical magazine anymore, but it's still, like, Dave Byrne is on the cover this month. But it stands for New Musical Express. Nobody calls it that. But the NME magazine embraced gonzo journalism. Does anybody know what gonzo journalism is?
It's where you get a big blue nose.
Yeah. Right.
And you get shot out of a cannon.
Right. Okay. Or it's where you embed yourself into the story. It's first person narrative. So you're not reporting, the band did this and the band did that. It's, I went to the show that night and I saw this. And so that's gonzo journalism. So it wasn't about being objective at all. But NME, as far as being famous for gonzo journalism, was also at the forefront of the punk movement. So right as punk was starting in London, NME was right there, which means she was right there. What? So she had the credentials of working with Zeppelin and then working on NME, and she was in the right place at the right time. But that famous Clash photo, which was taken in 1979, where it's actually Paul Simonon is about to smash his bass guitar, she almost wasn't even there. So it almost never even happened. So here's the story. It actually starts in 76, okay? The Clash is playing at the Royal College of Art in London. Yes, they are also art school kids. A lot of the punk movement really cross-pollinates with art school and being poor as shit. Bonnie, you understand, right? And this is British poor as shit. So, like, yeah, exactly. So Pennie is working as a freelance NME photographer. She's asked to go to a Clash show. This is way before they're big. She has the flu, though. And she shows up for 10 minutes and she decides to take a few pictures in the dressing room. And she's like, fuck this, I'm out. So she's mostly been doing like covers and she just goes. It's no big deal. But the Clash really liked her work and they're like, can you please come back and take some more pictures with us? Because I really like it. And she passed. She's like, nah, whatever. She was working with The Jam and with U2 and with Morrissey. Wow. And she got into a little bit of a spat with Debbie Harry of Blondie. But then again, who didn't? It feels like in a lot of my punk research, Debbie Harry pissed off everybody. And also Photographs always pissed off Debbie Harry too. But Pennie comes back around to taking a consideration of doing another, shot with the Clash because unlike some of the others that I mentioned, they were stiff. She said it was like film in a window. Like there was just nothing happening. She said there was more emotion and better shapes in the Clash. She liked their shapes. And I'm like, this is a girl of few words. They had good shapes. I wish she would have said they were hot as shit, but she didn't. She just said they had good shapes.
No, I like that.
Right.
I like that.
You're going to use that as
cool.
Very cool. Yeah. It's very British, it feels like, too.
Yeah.
Very
I'm
reserved.
say that to Josh after his run tomorrow because he always wants me to admire his calves.
You have better shapes.
They just start catcalling people. Hey,
I like shape.
you got some good shapes.
This should be a thing. So Joe Strummer, the lead singer, he asked Pennie to then, after taking some photographs, and they really liked them. Let's see, I have a few of them of her glorious. Yeah. So yeah, see, nice shapes, right? These boys have nice shapes.
They're okay.
And then there we go. There's one of the Clash members. Good shapes.
Good shape.
They're art students. What can I say? So Joe Strummer asked Pennie to go with them on the American tour. He said these American tours are way different. You should totally come with us. And she goes, all right. So she does.
Different how?
They're different in the sense of how the audience responds to them, and also the venues too. Okay. So the venues in Britain, everybody is doing mosh pits and crashing right in front of the stage. It's where you go to like dance and burn off energy. But in the States, people are sitting in their seats. They came for a show. They're, you know what I mean? They're a little bit more reserved. They're not fully up in there. So in their first US tour, Pennie has been with the Clash for about 2 weeks. And she was thinking about actually taking the night off and going bar hopping with her friends because they asked her out. And she's like, all right, nah, never mind. I'll go film the show. So it's New York City. It's the Palladium. And believe it or not, it's the 21st night of September. Now, there is a whole nother song called the 21st night of September. But this is in 1979. And she usually filmed on the other side of the stage. I can't tell you if it's stage right or stage left, but, she's usually on the other side of the stage by the lead guitarist, Mick Jones. That's usually where the action happens. Yeah. Because she was already thinking of not being there, she just wanted to change it up, just kind of get a different vibe, get some different photos from the show. So she was on the other side of the stage by the bassist, by Paul. So Paul was in a really bad mood that night, like really pissed off. Okay. So the New York audience, not only were they stiff, like sitting in their assigned seats, but the bailiff wouldn't the bouncer wouldn't even let them like stand up. Like they had to like sit in their seats. Can you imagine watching a punk rock show and you know what I mean? So there was no energy for them. And this was like 2 weeks into the American tour. And they are used to British audiences right up in their stuff. So they couldn't get the bouncers to, just let them have a show. So the anger just built up in Paul, and he was just fucking done. Like he was over this. So he raised his fender over his head like an axe, and he smashes it on the stage into a billion pieces. Pennie was 6 feet away. She was right there. The reason why the photo is a little blurry, she was ducking. Because it was that close. But she said, it wasn't my choice to take the shot. My finger just went off. One shot. That's all she took before she ducked. And she wasn't even planning on it. So she was really up in that glorious blast zone. So the next day, the band is looking at the contact sheet that has all the little tiny pictures that she has taken. And I think it's actually a while back of pictures that have been taken because they're looking for the album cover. They had already recorded the album in August. And so they're looking on the tour bus of all these hundreds of photos that Pennie has taken. And Joe Strummer points to that photo of Paul about to like destroy his base, and he said, "That's the one." And that's that ironic shot. But Pennie adamantly disagreed. She said it can't be that one. Quote, "It's completely out of focus. It won't work." But she said Joe wouldn't have it. That is the photo. So Pennie says, "I thought, okay, who am I to argue? It's your bloody album. Go on and get with it." So she was like, fuck you. That's a stupid ass shot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just the one shot. It's out of focus. You can't even tell who it is. Like, you don't know which guitarist it is. You can't even tell really it's the Clash. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have their good shapes. But you do know what that frustration feels like. You do know that you want to be part of that, or you want to be a train wreck and watch that. You know what I mean? So that image is like the center point for most punk rock and rock bands. People were not smashing their shit until they saw that photo. So the idea, and also even Paul, who smashed the bass, he said, if I was really thinking about it, I should have smashed the backup bass. That one sucked. So he smashed his favorite one. Oh. So it was just like in the movement of it. But some bands have specifically mentioned that photo and that album as an influence. So U2, Nirvana, Beastie Boys, and even Chuck D. So Chuck D said they are the band that changed everything. And Chuck D revealed that his group, Public Enemy, was trying to be the rap version of The Clash. So, and I love me some Public Enemy. So I was just like, yes! So I do have what Pennie actually thought of this photo in 2019. So like getting some time away from it now that this is an icon and now she has time to, yeah. So she had an interview with The Guardian. And she thinks, quote, Smith thinks it's an enduring appeal down to adolescent angst. She says it captured it, and it could be anybody who just loses their rag. She says, I'm pleased I took it, but it's a bit of a weight around my neck. It keeps coming back to whack me in the back of the head, nicely in some instances, but aggravating in others. Mm-hmm. So in other words, she's always known as the one who took the Clash cover photo. Mm-hmm. And she's like, you know what? I filmed Led Zeppelin before this, but whatever. But in 2002, Q magazine named that photo the greatest rock and roll photo of all time.
Wow.
Right? And I've got a few little side bits of trivia. If you want to see the smashed bass, because they actually have it, it's in the Museum of London right now. It used to be at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum in Cleveland. Anybody else see it? Because I've seen it.
Nice.
It's really cool.
And where was it before that, before they realized it would become so iconic?
I think somebody took it, because I don't think like the band, you know, like, oh, I'm going to hold on to this.
Right. That's what
I think it was discarded and a roadie took it. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think they knew it was going to be.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like,
exactly.
I'm always blown away by people that hold on to stuff, because I'm a shedder of things.
Right.
I'm the opposite of a hoarder. That's
you put it all in the
that
shed.
It still exists.
Oh yeah, it was one of those things where definitely with the punk scene and how the Clash was kind of moving up, they definitely decided to hold on to it, but they didn't like want it, you know what I mean? The other piece of memorabilia, when Paul smashed the guitar, he broke his watch. He gave Pennie his watch. Aww. She still has it.
Nice.
Museums have asked to put it on display, and she's like, fuck you, it's mine. So yeah, no, that's her watch. So she still has it, and Paul gave it to her. The other reason why I wanted to go second, which I don't usually go second, the album London Calling was recorded this month 42 years ago.
No.
And we love love the number 42 because it's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Mm-hmm. And so when I saw that, I went, what? Also, August 21st specifically, which is a Saturday this year, so it'll be the Saturday after this airs, it would have been Joe Strummer's 69th birthday. Mm-hmm. And Joe Strummer, he died at the age of 50 from an undiagnosed heart defect. Aww. He didn't know he had a heart problem.
Yeah.
Unreputable. Yeah. And at 50. So, but Joe Strummer was in a lot of bands and he was really, really cool. And he also was, he was kind of a mentor and kind of a shit kicker to a lot of punk rock people. So it was nice. It was kind of one of those things where it's like, dude, do better. You know what I mean? So he was a hard daddy. Let me put it that way. But also a good daddy in the punk rock movement. So I absolutely love them. So that is my one cool thing is Pennie Smith. And the Clash photo. Did you guys not know about the Clash? They're the only band that matters. Rock the Casbah, London Calling.
Yeah, I know the song.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, they are amazing 3-chord harmony and punk rock kid.
No, I don't know.
I know your dad didn't let you watch MTV.
I think it was my mom.
Oh, your mom. Okay.
I don't know.
I'll have to give you a punk rock education. Neil Diamond. I do love some Sweet Caroline.
Doesn't anybody?
Exactly.
I have one of his live albums on vinyl.
He's good, though. I will say Neil Diamond is a very good singer.
It's my favorite because it's a live show, and he's like, I'm going to play something now that I think you guys will remember for a little while.
Yes. Sweet Caroline.
That's like my favorite quote is like, it's not gonna make your whole life right now.
It kind of does
next
sometimes.
year you'll forget, but you're gonna remember it for a little while.
Exactly.
Well, people have remembered Pennie Smith's work.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
absolutely.
pretty epic.
Yeah, it's
What's
pretty
your most
cool.
popular Led Zeppelin image?
It's the one that I had to try to figure out where it was from. Here, I
Place
can
and
pull it
time
up
and
on.
It's the one you put on Facebook, right?
Yes, yeah, it's
Okay.
the Earl's London show, and that one's from '75, so that is her most famous one from Zeppelin. But I'm sure there's others. I was just having a hard time finding because, geez, Led Zeppelin is such a small band and all,
Right.
and not too many people have really taken photos of them.
Yeah.
So I was really looking at a needle in a haystack. So I had to backwards generate. I actually had to figure out when it was. A lot of help from Judith was on my Facebook feed, and Barb also helped out too because she's like, why don't you put it on Facebook and see if Hive Mind knows? But really what gave it away was the stage. The stage had these light bulbs on the front of it, these little orbs, and so it was matching that.
Okay.
Yeah, because they
Very
did
specific.
they did a lot of tours. Oh my god,
Yeah.
there's so many tours.
Josh is trying to bring me up to date with classic rock.
Oh, there you
We
go.
watched
Yes,
the Led Zeppelin
song remains the same.
I don't know what it was. But
Okay.
We watched a whole concert
Yes.
on the Netflix.
Did it seem like it
I'm
was
trying.
a way it goes in the 70s?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay, it was probably Song Remains the Same. Yes.
Yes, probably so. So as you researched, did you come across an image of Pennie's that was your absolute favorite?
I love the Clash photo. No, I really do.
Okay.
Because the energy that is
Yeah.
in that photo is my favorite. Also, she took a picture of the Ramones. Okay, I'm going to
Okay.
assume you guys don't know who the Ramones are.
I've heard of the Ramones.
Okay,
heard
all
of
right,
the
I'll take
Ramones,
it. Let's see. The Ramones. I love this one. Look at the bass player's face. I love energy in photos, especially when it's music. You know what I mean? I don't want it to be on a wall. I want it to be to feel like the music is, and that is feeling like it's totally jamming. I also love Tom Waits. I do have a photo she took of Tom Waits, and she has the Oasis too. She took this one of Tom Waits. Tom Waits is a avant-garde kind of circus lounge singer, if that's the best way to he's weird. You got to put it together like that.
Okay.
Circus lounge singer is the best way. But he does a song called Waltzing Matilda, which is one of my favorite songs. But he would be... he's art scene, but he's not necessarily punk music, but he got along very well with the punk scene and stuff like that. So, but yes, Tom Waits is also an actor. Sometimes he's in movies just to screw around. So yes, but any questions for me?
Just as a photographer, I completely sympathize with her of the whole, no, you don't want that thing.
That it's not in
You can't
focus.
even see who that is.
Right.
What are you doing?
Yep.
Oh, no, I'm right along with her. I would have been like, why not even put that in there?
See, probably not even going, it's not my best work. I could do so much better.
Uh-huh.
But it's more of the moment than it is the image itself, which sucks because that takes no skill. That takes luck. That's not fair.
Yeah, that is that.
But she was right place, right time.
Yeah.
And she almost wasn't.
I think it's interesting that she's annoyed half the time that
Yeah.
people ask her about it, but then she cherishes that watch so much.
I think it's the people, not the business. So she's
that happened in that same moment. Like, there's no way she doesn't think about like that thing happening.
Oh yeah. She loves those guys. They are history buffs, and she's not, even though she didn't know who Led Zeppelin really was when she went on tour with them. She doesn't really listen to rock and roll music. Like, she's very in her own zone and just finds interesting, like, a lot of the photographs that she would take were like when the band would say, hey, can you take some photos of us for the album? It was them doing stuff that was not musically related. So she would find a way to take musicians out of their element and just playfully be themselves. And I think the Clash was so playfully that she had a lot more fun with them, sort of thing. Plus, she was in a very male-dominated industry. Not only was it the bands were dudes, and lots of them, but there's groupies, and there's not many other photographers and videographers that are women. So I'm sure in her career she might have gotten like, oh, are you a groupie? You know what I mean? It's like, no, I'm paid to be here. Thank you.
Right.
So, but yeah. Well, that wraps it up for us this week. Again, happy birthday, Joe Strummer. Join us next week as our next gal pal shares her one cool photography gal as the Gals Guide podcast continues. Thanks for listening. For show notes, links, and images from this week's show, visit galsguide.org. Want exclusive stuff like deleted bits and major bloopers? Become a Gals Guide patron today. Thanks for listening.